Been putting this video off for a while now because every time I go to try to film this, it just irritates me. Had the car all put together and was going to take it out to a day at work. I had to work on a Sunday, so I drove it to work, give it a little shakedown, see how it went. Then I was going to come back and put some GoPros on it and get some footage of how the suspension was working. So I came out of work, accelerated rapidly up to the speed limit, and discovered that the hood latch I had was not latching. So I don't know where to put that thing. So the hood latch has a little thing on there, and it's got a little spring that pulls it down, and well, my spring had been sprung, so it was no longer catching. So that took my hood. Well, I guess the wind took my hood and threw it into my windshield at about 50 miles an hour. Thankfully there's nobody around me because it's a Sunday, and you know who's driving around work on Sunday. So yeah, shattered my windshield, bent the hood hinges, ripped the hood hinges out of the firewall, and dented both of my fenders. So I don't know if you guys know about this style of car, which, you know, I'm learning. This 49 to 52 Chevy and Pontiac, which Pontiac has a different front end. You just can't find parts at a junkyard or anywhere else. So very very agitating. So let's see if I can figure out how to turn this. Oh no, get that way. So see some of the damage here. It pushed this up. I tried heating this up and pushing it back down, shrinking a little bit, and it didn't work. Obviously there's no window here. Bent these corners of the hood all the way back. This is all, I don't know if you can see it in the video, this is all wonky. I had to bend most of that back. I got the metal under here for the hinges where they bolt to the firewall somewhat straightened out, and it's just not fitting right. No matter how I bend these hinges or bend the hardware, that little crossbar thing that goes across with it, it just doesn't want to work right. So you can see that bar. I'm sure that needs to bend, I don't know, some way till it's touching the hood more. Probably got to bend that some more and get in here, and I had to heat and bend some of these plates off, and you see that one still doesn't match up, so it's all pretty much pretty crappy. So I was trying to start doing my panel fitment, and that's way off now. Everything bent. You can see my gaps and just horrible fitment, which it really was good from the factory, but now it's even worse. So that kind of led me into the body, because I got no money for anything else, and figured, body works easy and free, right? You just do it and get yourself a little rattle can and paint it. And so yeah, I started sanding away this paint on this car, which that was a mistake. I should have known better when I did the front end. The guy who had it before me literally filled in turn signal holes and grill openings with Bondo that was some places an inch thick. So I kind of went down the car and found things that were filled in, like this little guy had Bondo all the way around here. I was able to shrink it a little bit and pull it out, but that needs some work. I don't know if you can see those holes, and you can see the Bondo in there. We just shoved in Bondo. And this is what gets me the most. This panel, the rear fender panel, was pushed in. You can still see it's got some memory of where it was at. They had taken the fuel filler and pushed it in to weld it shut. So that pushed this whole panel in. So I gotta fix that oil canning. That pushed that whole panel in, oh, I don't know, 3/4 of an inch. And then, you know, you gotta have a smooth panel, so why not just spread Bondo over the entire fender, 3/4 of an inch thick. I had to grind all that out. Then figured out it was this fuel filler that was holding it all together, so cut that out and hammered it back out a little bit. You can still see a lot of the Bondo here. How thick that was, I haven't got that off yet. So we can figure out what color this is going to be. Then there's the roof. So at some point, I think this sat in a field and there were some kids had some pellet guns or hammers or other small children that they threw into the roof, and I don't even see those, but those are really high spots. And then got some dents, oil canning, and maybe they took an ice pick to it. And I don't know if you can see this, but that trim piece is flush, and you can see that difference there, that hole. So I've tried to shrink most of that out. That oil canning was over here too. This is a lot of somebody sitting under there with a pick or something. This is where my hood came up and smashed that in. So I got most of that oil canning out. Now I just have to hammer that out. And I may not have mentioned this yet, but my experience with bodywork is I just picked up some sandpaper out of my toolbox. So that's going to be fun.
torque on it. The spinning flange is this wide, it's rubbing, and also a little bit further sticking out with the drive shaft.
It's another day. Got the driver's side all smoothed up. Got the sealer primer on there. Got a little bit of color on there before I ran my little drawer supply of paint. So went over at Buddy's house the other night, and he had some seats he's getting rid of. And I've been rocking these. I think they came out of a BMW. They're leather, power, got all the lumbars and the hoo-haws and whatnots on there. Powered duty hoppers. It's got an airbag on it if you ever hook that stuff up, but it just doesn't really fit the car. So he's getting rid of these old Volkswagen, I think they're Type 1 seats, not a Volkswagen guy. Hush. They looked a little better. So kind of fit the car a little bit more. So I'm going to try to swap those in. See a little difference in there, a little more period correct. So it should look nice. And then when I get my seat mounts figured out, I can put this bracket in there for my center console, which obviously doesn't fit the vehicle either, but I mean, you know, something else to do, right? So yeah, get this back seat out. This little guy was put in with some ingenious little seat brackets I made. Definitely low budget. So we're gonna get to stripping all these seats out and seeing how these new ones look in there. See if they look a little more like they go. Because I definitely can't afford. Let me say that I can't locate an affordable original seat for this. Managed to get the tracks off. A little carnage of the seat. It may not be salvageable, but there's some cheapo offer-up Craigslist type seats that I got for cheap, so they were going to go in the trash anyways, but that's what's left of the seat. After stripping all the electronics and whatnots off, it left me with two tracks, a little worm gear assembly here, and a motor that just needs positive and negative reversed to move it back and forth, so I don't need to use the little sensors and computers and all that stuff that probably goes through a VCM and whatever. Typically on these you can get either 2 relays and wire in for a reverse polarity setup off of a switch, so you would have like momentary contact on one side to go forward and momentary contact on the other side. Just 2 little switches that like push button types, and you can make it go forward and back. I've done this on windows, I've done this on door locks, anything that you need to reverse polarity on. If I remember right, I haven't done a whole lot of wiring like this for a while. If I remember right, there's I think one of the Chevy truck power window switches, like 88 to 98, I think it does that reverse polarity in the switch. I might have one in the drawer I have to check out, but anyway, I'll make some sort of reverse polarity switch so I can go forward and backward with the seat, and I'll hide that somewhere where you're not looking at brand new modern electronics, but I want to have the adjustability of forward and back. Electric. I figured it'd be kind of nice to have instead of seat slider where you're stuck in like 4 positions or however many teeth there are on there, and they're not where I want to sit. So with me, I'd like to go all the way back. If my wife or someone short drives, they might want to go all the way forward, and there may not be enough adjustability in that. So all I'll be able to do is with one hand here. Bear with me. Let's see if I can get this hooked up. I'm just using a drill battery. One side positive, one side negative. And you can see it operates just fine. One cool thing about this bracket setup I didn't see before is that these bolts here secure the track to the, I guess the inner track to the outer track on the lower side. So I take this bolt out, I can actually clock the seat bracket slider where I need it. So if I need it to start up, you know, all the way forward or something, and then have my adjustability, I can do that. So that's a really neat thing. I don't know if they meant that to be that way or not, but that's a pretty cool feature. So in the midst of all this, I spilled my beer, so I now have to clean that up, along with the seat that I destroyed and everything else, and then that'll probably be it for the night, because I really like beer. And hey, new day, new chaos. So I got these seats that I'm going to mount to the tracks, right? Got my tracks here, got my seats there. Looks like I'll be able to capture most of these holes in a relatively decent position. Center them up right about here. So I think the best spot, best choice for this is probably to make a piece of plate that I can weld to the bottom of the seat rail there, and then have it weld here and kind of stick off to the side, maybe an inch or so, kind of like that. And then I'll drill some holes in it, mount this up onto there, and if I need to, I can probably run some little triangle gussets on here so my fat ass doesn't fall through. That's what's left of my 1/8 inch plate. Figured it was good enough for the frame, it's good enough for my booty. So yeah, I'm gonna try to cut these up. The kids are trying to watch a movie, so I'll try to cut these up before they start that. Get my plates made, get them tacked on here, drill some holes, weld these or bolt these tracks on, and then set it in the car and then see how it feels. If I need to lean it back or move it up, down, left, right, or whatever, and we can kind of see what we need to go from there. So we'll get these brackets cut out. Got the seats, welded the bracket on, took the sliders and set them in the car. So gave them a quick spray of paint on the brackets on the seats, and I'm going to try to set those in place and see how they feel, see if I need to adjust it up or down or whatnot. So let's do that. All right, a little ways forward. Yep, that's gonna need to lean back a little bit. Other than that, I think that won't be too bad. Have to come in a little bit too. That's a decent height. Get your arm right where you want it. Nice and squishy. All right, get this one bolted down and start on the next one. So I was sitting in this seat and got the other track over there. The other seat was about, I don't know, 2 inches lower. You can see my dome. It's almost touching the roof. If I sit up, I can actually touch the roof. If I look over, I'm looking at the damn pillar, so that ain't gonna work. No, I'm an exceptionally oversized gentleman, but that ain't gonna fit. Ain't gonna work. Bouncy, but it ain't gonna work. So I gotta figure this out. I got these little seat tube pieces that are welded onto the frame, and then I welded these pieces on and bolted it to here. I think what I might have to do is cut these off, weld these to here. The only issue with that is the actual fabric is hog ringed around where I would need to weld. So I'm going to do that. That would be there. So I don't know. I got a beer out, and I'm hoping the answer's in the bottom of it. I'll keep looking and check back later. Seat bracket adjusters kicking my butt, but this is the assembly for the forward and aft motion on the BMW seats I had in there. So the rails bolted to here, your little worm gear that goes inside of this little guy does a little, and then gets spun by this motor, which spins the shaft, you know, equally. The problem I'm having is that the Volkswagen seats I'm trying to use has a reclining mechanism. And you see that here. I'm not able to, so I guess I should back up. The height problem is what I'm trying to fix. To lower the height of the seat, I would have to cut the brackets or sink the seat in the bracket. So in other words, instead of welding here, I would have to bring this plate up or bring the seat down and then weld to the plate, essentially dropping the seat. Cool story, but then you have these little adjusters which at the width of the seat bracket, if I drop it down any, it's gonna hit. There's one of these on both sides. So I either needed to somehow fabricate a bracket that would go around that, which structurally it didn't make any sense to do because I wouldn't be able to grab on anything, or I can just do this idea, which is narrow the seat bracket. So I've been looking at this, trying to figure out how do I get this, how do I narrow this? Well, the end piece, this worm gear comes out. This little guy, the drive rod, comes out. So hypothetically speaking, I should be able to chop what I need to chop out of somewhere in here, tack weld this back together, put the rod back in, measure where I need to cut the rod, and just slide this little end cap on, and I have custom fit adjustment bracket. So I'm gonna go take some measurements and do some tacking and see what I can come up with here. Maybe I can make this thing work after all. Oh, there she blows. Got the brackets in. See, they catch the rear post, that post, whatever it's called, and the front post. It's 1/8 inch steel. It's bolted all the way across the bottom here. This is all going to be tied together, and should be pretty strong. So I'm going to attempt to weld these up without burning the fabric, and see what she looks like. Here she is, all bolted in. Tracks and cutting everything down brought me about 1 inch or 2, maybe 3. There's a whole lot of adjustability on this thing. It'll go back pretty far, almost where you're making it uncomfortable for the guy in front of you. Behind you, rather. But that's like, I'm 6'6", and that's way past where I would want to be. So that's good. And it can go full track width forward, so that'll put you, you know, in Oompa Loompa land with a steering wheel on your chest if you want to. So, not bad. Not bad. Seats are a little smaller than the other ones, so I'm going to play around with how I'm going to mount this center console. It's nice to be able to retain the factory slider on this older style seat. Seems to be a decent spot. Got good visibility. Feels nice and solid. So thanks for hanging in there. Sorry for jumping around to all different kind of topics. I throw a lot of money at this thing, so what I get's what I got. And I got some seats, and I got tired of doing body work before I do this area, and you know, some of these areas. So I figured I'd take a break and do some cleanup interior stuff that's kind of creative and fun instead of repetitive and boring with grinding, sanding, grinding, sanding, grinding, sanding, grinding, sanding. So hang in there. It's probably gonna wrap this video up, and stay tuned for the next one where I do the seats and the things. So give me a like or subscribe or comment on what how I'm messing this up or whatever, and we'll see you next time.